Hi there, welcome back to the channel. I just driving over here and had a really powerful emotional response to the song New Order's Temptation. Incredible. And it reminded me of Jonathan Demme, the director. He directed New Order videos and the movie Something Wild. Just thought I'd mention it for those of you who weren't around in the 80s. New Order and Jonathan Demme. Pretty great combination. Anyway, so what I'm going to do today, what was happening was we got our tracks cleaned up. You know, we did the drums, or I did the drums, you watched, and we cleaned up the tracks, and you probably cleaned up your tracks too. So what I'm going to do now is show you how to get those into the Zoom in a way that makes sense. What I like to do with the drums is double them, as we've talked about, and then I'm going to put them on the back row, as I call it. I picture them being at the back, and the new stuff I record being at the front. So I usually work vocals to drums. Vocals, the guitars, maybe the bass guitar are all in the first 1 through 8 on the channel strip. And then I'll usually make 9 through 16 be other things, like maybe a guitar riff part or a solo type thing, you know, it's like its own little moment in the song, or some percussion or something like that. Maybe an extra bass part or something. Who knows? Just something that sort of sits there and doesn't have to be adjusted much. I make most of my adjustments be on that front row so that, you know, I'm in real time and I don't have to switch between banks. And the drums, I typically, once I set them, I'm not going to be adjusting them unless it's some kind of weird fade or just something going on with the song that I have to deal with. But typically when I'm recording my stuff, there's none of that. I just have the drums on that third bank, and I'll show you that. And you can set them up any way you want, but I will show you how to assign tracks to the different banks and put them in different spaces and move them around and, you know, take them away and all that kind of thing. So that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the camera in and we're going to get it up close, and I'll just shoot the zoom and I'll show you how to move those tracks around. It's really easy, but kind of murky and confusing if you don't understand the process. So that's what we'll do next. Here we go. Okay, as promised, we're back at the Zoom. I'll power it on now. Clicking on the switch. Should come up on We Know, which is the name of the song, name of the project. I titled it. Now, here's our 4 lights. This is green lights. That means it's in play mode, and this is the tracks that we recorded on. We're in the first bank, 1 through 8. These are all live tracks that have the recording on them. If we go to track, you'll see that they're named Mono 008, Mono 009, Mono 010, and Mono 011. Those are the tracks that you watched me take to Audacity and clean up, right? So we need to reassign these tracks. These tracks are no longer the ones we're going to use anymore. We want to keep them. If we ever want to work on these tracks again, they'll still be in the machine. But we want to get them out of the way so that we can set up the tracks that we worked on as our new clean drum tracks. So I just noticed something crazy, or something interesting. I had it in mastering mode, and you can tell that by this red light here, right? Okay, so I had it in mastering mode. Let's go up to effects, and you can see that it's in mastering, and I've got it as the master. That means all tracks are affected. And I did this because I was taking the recording that I made from here, and I made a master of it, and I wanted to put it, you know, on the video of the tracks when I'm doing the drums. That's what you're hearing. You're hearing what was coming from the Zoom as opposed to what was coming from the camera mic. So I had to make a master of that actual drum take. So when I did that, I had to engage the master, correct? So now I'm releasing the master, but I left it in mastering mode. I left it on the master channel mode. See here, master. And when I went to effect, look, disabled. So if you ever have this problem, for a minute I thought there was something wrong with the machine. Effect is disabled when you're in play mode with the master on. So you can take it off. Effect is back. You can apply effects. Or in record mode, you can apply effects. It's only in playback master mode effects are not available. So notice it doesn't even respond, which is kind of confusing and weird until I realized, oh, this master is still engaged. It's not in record mode, so it's not offering up an effect. It's just going to play it back for me, but I don't want it to do that. I want to get back to my tracks. So if that ever happens to you, it just happened to me and it confused me. thought it might be nice to point it out to everyone. Okay, so now I'm going to just disengage these because I'm not going to use these, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to track, and I'm going to go to these, and I want to be able to free these up for some more recording, because tomorrow I'm going to start recording the guitar as long as I have a successful afternoon of, practicing. So I want to free those tracks up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go here, and I'm going to change this. I'm going to hit take. You see that track? I hit the track button. I'm going to hit enter, and it says file. I'm going to hit enter again, and it's going to show me what's available to me. And I'm going to scroll up because I alphabetical order and all. There's new take. Good old new take, right? So now I'm going to go here, do the same thing. I'm going to repeat this all the way across because I don't want those sitting there playing back, and I also don't want them taking up space for when I want to, track the next ones. The guitars, for instance, or if I wanted to track bass, I want to have these tracks open because this is where you do it. Usually input 1 for any kind of plugging in, and usually some of the effects work on 1 and 2 only, so that's where I'm going to be. Well, actually, that's not true. So now I'm going to get rid of this, make this a new take. Up here. Wait, let's see, make sure I did that correctly. New take. Okay, so now we have new take, new take, new take. We got rid of the recordings that we made, mono 8 through mono 11, have now been removed. They're sitting inside. You can see them in here. Look, let's go in here and look at the tracks. So I'm going to hit file and just take a look at what's available to me. I've got mono 8, and then here's my cleanup tracks. They've already been assigned, but I'm going to show you how to assign them, but they've already been assigned. So there's the tracks that we're not using anymore, and you can see that they no longer have an asterisk next to them because they're no longer in play. So essentially they're just sitting in there in storage. If you ever want to use them, you connect to the Audacity, or you can engage them, of course, here by just choosing them and assigning them to a channel in this track button, or you could take them out in Audacity, redo some sweetening and whatever other cleanup you're doing, and then bring them back in at that point. So I always leave these original files in here so I'm not trapped with the ones I've already done. I might decide to make a change or not like something later, and this way I can come back to the file and it's in its original state. That goes in Audacity and we redo it. Okay, so now I'll show you how I set up the drums. Can't remember if I did it or not, but this is the first bank right here. We've got this lit up. We're in 1 through 8, right? And this is usually where I like to put stuff that I'm going to have to manipulate during a mix, like the vocals perhaps, or maybe a guitar part or something. Who knows? There may be a song where I have to manipulate the mix a little bit, move things around. Usually it's the vocals. And so I'll have them right here, and I'll have it engaged in this one, and everything else is sort of on autopilot as far as the mix goes, right? Now, we move to this one. I put things here a lot of times. I'm going to disengage that because we don't need to hear that back. And then what I do with drums is I put them on this row, and you can see I've already put them there, and I'm going to show you how to do it. They're probably already sitting there, but I'll show you how it's done. Watch this. You have to have it in this mode first. When you hit track, it's going to go pew, and shoot it over here because this is where it originally was. So this is the original first bank. So once you go to track, let's try that again. Let's see if we're sitting here what it does. Go to track, see it always pops back to 1. Let's exit and go back to this one. We're sitting here. We want to go to track and look at 17. When we hit track, see how it jumps to track 1. So instead of that, instead of having to scroll through each track, and you could do that. You could just scroll through. You can also just go to the bank you want to work in. Since we're going to work in 17 through 24, the third bank, pow. I'm going to hit it there, and now you see it put me on track 22 as opposed to 14 or 6. Okay, so now I'm going to roll myself back here to track 17, which remember we're in the third bank, okay? And it's going to be in the first position. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit take, hit file, and it's snare 1, and you see how it has an asterisk because it's already been selected. You hit enter again, and there it is. In 17, we have snare 1. In 18, I want snare 2, and there it is, and I'll show you how to get it there. Let's say it was sitting like you were on new take, and you were looking for snare 2. You would just roll up and find it. It's right there. There's snare 1. For some reason, it's not next to snare 1. It's right there, snare 2. Okay, so I'm going to hit that, enter, take, snare 2. Yep, that's what I want. Okay, so now we're going to go to the next one and start it over again. I'm going to hit enter, and when I see file, This one is going to be the left overhead. So it's overhead L1. There's overhead L2. Same thing here, overhead L2. Let's see, overhead, there's overhead L1. I'm getting lost here every time I go in here. See how these things are kind of confusing? That's why I usually try to keep the letters the same so that they don't get separated, but it still separated them. Okay, so here's overhead left 1, overhead right 1, which will be the next track. So now, here's my 2 overhead lefts. These will be my 2 overhead rights, because remember, these are doubled. So they're the same track, they're just doubled up. Okay, so I'm going to exit, go to here. This is going to be overhead right, hit enter. Same thing, there's overhead right 1, that's the one we chose. This one's going to be overhead right 2. There it is, all good. It's got the asterisk next to it, you know it's been selected. Then these are our 2 bass drums. It should say B drum 1 and B drum 2. And so, whoops, sorry. Exit, go to this one, file. Let's say I needed to put B drum 2 in here, and I'll put it on new take just to show you. Let's say it was sitting at new take like this, and you wanted to put B drum 2 in there, right? It's on, let's say, okay, well, let's go to the track behind it. So here it is, B drum 1, you want B drum 2, right? And track 23, you're going to want B drum 2, and track 24. So let's go to track 24. It says new take, right? We hit enter, hit file, B drum 2. See, it doesn't have the asterisk like B drum 1, so you know it hasn't been chosen yet. Go up, choose it. Now it's sitting in 24, exit. So if you want to double check, you'll just go to track and just make sure B drum 2, B drum 1, OHR 2, OHR 1, OHL 2, OHL 1, snare 2, snare 1, drums are in place. All good. Okay, so now I'm going to exit that. Now, I know that my drums are here. I could start playing them back and get a mix and all that. But instead, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Pan EQ, right? Once again, look how it jumped to this first bank. We want to be in the third bank, right? So we don't get confused and start adjusting the wrong tracks. We're in track 17. That's the snare. I'm going to leave it in the center. I'm not going to do any EQing on it. Later on, I probably will add, I usually add 5 to this, 5 to this, 5 to that on drums. High, I give 5. Mid, I give 5. Low, I get 5. And let's just do that just for example's sake. Here's our 5. Now, for some reason, this doesn't work and it sounds terrible. I will go back to 0. I will roll something down to 3 or 4 or 2 or whatever it needs to be. But usually, 5 sounds great on drums. If I do 5 on all the EQs, it just, I don't know why, 5s work with the Zoom. They pop it to life. And it's like you get more of everything without it sounding forced or like compressed or gritty or grainy. So that's good. Now, reverb, that's completely up to you. This room is pretty live. There's kind of like noise going on. This is not a very well, I didn't try to kill every natural sound that could be emanating from, a drumstick hitting a drum. It either is going to sound just like the drum or you're going to hear some of the room. And here you hear some room. So I didn't add any reverb. But of course, it's there. And maybe we'll add 10 at some point. A real good bass line for just basic reverb on this thing that's subtle and does a good job is around 30. If you want to really hear it, you got to go up a bit. It's very subtle reverb. Right now, I'm just going to leave it at 0, but I recommend you mess around with it because I like the fact that it's so subtle. When you use reverb from plugins, sometimes it's like really intense and it's hard to control it. Okay, so now, same thing. And the chorus I usually like, I might just bump that up no matter what. It gives a little strange kind of doubled sound. Very subtle once again. It does not sound as heavy duty as like what you think chorus would sound like. Both of these effects are super light. They don't, I mean, you can go all the way up with them and you'll get a big effect, but if you just use them sparingly, you won't even know they're there. So I think they're pretty useful. The fader, you can control it from here, right? Back and forth, up, down. It's on 83, so heck, I'll leave it there. And then I like to match up the other one, make sure that both snares are at the same volume level. It doesn't make much sense to double them if one of them's quieter or louder, right? Okay, so we got on 83, and that's what I do with the snare. Oops, sorry, move that fader. Let's put it back on 83. And these are all going to be adjusted later. So both snares have the same settings, right? Let's say we were doing our 5 here. We'd want to do it here as, we want to do it here as well. And sometimes with that mic, I'll not use the high. I won't boost the highs because that mic it kind of picks up too much upper mids and highs sometimes to an annoying level. Okay, so that's good. Now, left overhead. As you can see, I recorded it at left 40. You could make it left 50 by going that way or something, or you could make it all the way to one side. But I usually put both of these at around like 40, and I'll play around with it till I'm happy. I just want it to sound natural, like it sounds when I'm sitting behind the kit. Same thing here. Both of these, since they're the same thing, I used to kind of think, oh, this one should go right, that one go left. No, wait a minute. They're the same thing, so they both go left. And then on overhead right, I go right 40. Same idea. And all the things apply to these. I haven't added anything to them, but I obviously could. And then we're going to go to, so that overhead left was going 40 one way, overhead right was going the other way. And let's check real quick what our volume levels are as far as our faders go. 79. They're kind of all over the place. So say this one was 86 and it was working out. I've rolled this one to 86 as well. And same thing here. If this is 95 and this is, so this was 95, this should be 95. And if that's 95, we'll make this one be 95 too. Now, of course, this is all after I do mixes, but that seems right because the next one I had at 94. So I could just make all those be 95 and they match in volume level or output level. And then up here, I'm making sure that I have my pan in place. Bass drum, down the center again. You could try to pan them if you want, but bass is pretty omnipresent. It doesn't react as well to panning, although bass guitar does. But the bass drum itself, I don't think you'll get as much out of it as you would like, the overheads. So, and there's no reason for it. So that's down the center, and the next one's down the center. And then, like, if you want a little extra low, go 5 there, 5 there. Go down, make sure our levels are good. It says 81 here, so I'll make this one be 81, this one 82. It's that simple. So now, I have some effects here and there, a little EQ going on, and I've got my levels where I want them, and I've got them assigned to this third bank. And I don't know if this will be your logic, but there's certain instruments for me, since I'm playing rock, I put the drums are like the bedrock, so I put them at the bottom. And then the next bank, I'll usually put the extraneous stuff that I'm not using as much, that I don't have to get levels on, maybe a couple of extra guitar parts, an extra bass part, or the bass itself. And in here will be, usually I'll have the two vocals here that are the same vocal. It's not a double, it's just doubling the amount of signal like I do with the drums. I'll have some songs I'll have a light double track that'll be like mixed way down low. That'll be there. And then maybe a harmony part or two. Or I like to do oohs and ahs, and I'll do 3 of those and mix them like real low, just so they kind of have an ethereal kind of angelic sound. And then maybe this is, so maybe these first 5 even are all vocals, right? And then maybe these 2 are guitars, and then this is like another guitar or a bass guitar, right? Because when I do the same thing with the guitars, I record at 4x12. I'll have one side of the one side of the cabinet, one speaker on this channel, the other one on that one. So you actually do, and the speakers are different, so you actually get some tonal differences, and then I kind of blend those together by panning and whatnot. So that's usually my first bank, right? The stuff that, like, I'm usually writing the vocals. Like, let's say I'm too loud on the choruses. When I know those are coming, I'm going to pop them down. So I'll usually have them on this first bank, right? It just seems easier. The second bank, I'll have the stuff I don't use as much. And down here, obviously, is my 8 drum tracks. That's my logic. Of course, you'll come up with your own in your own workflow. But if you haven't kind of thought that through, who knows, that you may like what I do. So everything looks good now. Everything's fine. I've got the drums down here. I've got the tracks assigned. We have those all correct. As you go through, you can see everything is correct. And I'm going to go back. Let's see if I assigned anything on this second row. Nope, it's all new take here. So everything's clean. All clean across here. I love these clean banks. That means I'm ready to record. So tomorrow, 2 guitar tracks that I'll be playing at one time. That'll just be like the basic rhythm track of the tune. I don't know if I'll get into any other guitar bits, but maybe I will. And then after that, it'll be bass guitar direct in, and then we do our vocals. So we're on track now, and the song I'm excited about. I haven't even messed with the drum tracks yet, mainly because the drums take so much time and effort for me to get them right, because it's really the most important part, is to get that rhythm section down right. That's kind of the song, and then everything else just builds from there. Okay, so hopefully that helped. See you next time.